Scribblenauts came out on the Nintendo DS in 2009, but I'm playing it on the 2013 compilation cart, Scribblenauts Collection, on my Nintendo 2DS. Don't you love getting used games and seeing what the previous owners named their files? Haha, poop. Anyway, this is a very unique and interesting game, and not just because it's probably the only game rated E10+ by the ERSB that allows you to kill cops with dynamite. It's a puzzler, one of many on the DS, but its hook is that the game allows you to summon any object, or living being, into the game as a means to solve the puzzles. The main adventure contains 11 worlds, including the tutorial world, which takes way too long to get through, with 22 levels each. 11 of them are puzzle levels, which involve completing a specific task in order to earn a starite, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, the game's main collectible. The other 11 levels in each world are called action levels, which involve grabbing a starite by any means necessary. There's also the option to create and trade levels with friends, and a free play screen to mess about on. But I won't really be talking about those aspects of the game because I didn't play much on them. We're sticking with the main game mode for this review. So this is obviously an extremely ambitious concept. The ability to bring anything you can think of into a game at will. That's super cool. It does seem like something, however, that would have been botched horrifically in execution. But surprisingly, it wasn't. A little bit of post-play research taught me that there are literally tens of thousands of items in the game's database, and that gargantuan number frankly doesn't surprise me. Now, there are some limits on what you can create. As I've said, this game is rated E10+, so you can't type in dildo and expect one to appear. But when I was playing the game, I only ran into trouble once with what I was trying to summon. In one puzzle involving a bee, I tried to get a beekeeper suit for Maxwell. That's the name of the little character you play as, and the game didn't recognize the phrase. Although it did allow me to summon a beekeeper, he turned out to be pretty useless. Maybe I was using the wrong term, and a different phrase would have netted me what I was after. But even if not, only running into one issue is something I did not expect, in a game that's built around such a difficult-to-implement mechanic. Having to find another way to complete that particular level brings me to another point. If you haven't figured as much already, giving you access to tens of thousands of tools means that there are many different ways to solve the puzzles that this game has to offer. Even though most players will probably find one or a few bread and butter items, the jetpack was definitely mine. Being given this much freedom is always a big plus, and it's especially unexpected in a handheld title. And again, there were very few times in my playthrough where I observed this angle not being implemented well. One of the only examples I can think of is when I couldn't catch this bird by jumping on a trampoline, something that, in my book, should have worked. Instead, I had to use bait. Or, maybe I didn't actually have to. There were probably other ways to solve it, but you get the point. Then again, disallowing some of the obvious solutions might just be the devs' way of avoiding making a game that's too easy. I also had a pretty comical moment when I thought that a portal was a good option to get past this tornado, which did nothing but get Maxwell mauled to death by a freaking demon. There's also a limited amount of objects allowed to be in use at one time, which again, helps add challenge to a game that easily could have turned out too easy. And you get bonus allers for avoiding the use of weapons, another incentive to be creative and not take the easy way out. Yes, you heard that correctly, I said allers. That is what the in-game currency is called. It's used to buy new sets of levels and also music tracks and some cosmetic stuff, like different characters to play as if you don't care for Maxwell. I bought the zombie, but only used it for one level. It just felt off. I'd rather rock with Maxwell. Anyone who's down to fight a bee with a sword is cool in my book. Let's talk about the control scheme. There are multiple to choose from, which is good. I always like having different options. The one I played with used the D-pad for moving Maxwell around, and the touchscreen to scroll the screen and interact with objects. It's important to note that apparently you weren't given the option of multiple control schemes in the original, only in this compilation cart that I'm playing. At least, that's according to what I've read. I don't own the original Scribblenauts cart, so I can't confirm it for certain. As I've said, this game obviously has an excellent concept, but the controls were one of its downfalls for me. They just felt off. There's no usage of any of the face buttons, so jumping has to be performed with the up arrow on the D-pad. Thankfully, there isn't much platforming to be found in this game, because this is quite the clumsy jumping mechanic. Climbing is tedious since you can't just walk up to the ladder and press up. You have to use the touchscreen to interact with the environment. Digging is tedious for the same reason, but the most tedious thing of all is scrolling the screen to get a better view of the level with the touchscreen. It's hard to explain why. It's just tiring and breaks up the gameplay in a bad way. That said, I don't think it was avoidable. The levels are simply too big to put on the screen all at once, and you wouldn't be able to adequately see what you're doing. Something about the game's overall setup is just awkward. It took me a while to fully grasp that Maxwell doesn't have to physically touch something in order for I, the player, to interact with it. Maybe I'm just dumb. The control scheme that was allegedly the only option in the original would amplify all of these issues though. That involved using the touchscreen to move Maxwell, which sounds atrocious. I'm glad I didn't have to deal with it. Another big flaw in the game is the fact that many of the puzzles are simply dull and unengaging. Many of the levels put into the puzzle category aren't actually puzzles at all, just menial tasks. It reminds me of getting a fortune cookie that includes some stupid phrase that isn't a real fortune. The levels categorized as action were usually more fun to me, and surprisingly, usually more challenging and requiring more thought. As I've said, refraining from using weapons will net you bonuses, but it seems like some levels require you to be murderous. Maybe if I spent more time I'd have found out other ways, but look at how eager some of these NPCs are to kill you. Just imagine that you're in prison and someone breaks you out. There just so happens to be a firearm lying around. What's the first thing you do with your newfound freedom? Why, of course, grab the gun and shoot everything that moves. Right? Gotta give Maxwell his due. He absorbs quite a few bullets before biting it. He can also run into tornadoes and come out unscathed. Yet bees kill him within seconds. Maybe he has a severe allergy. The cops in some levels shoot you on sight as well. Or if they don't have guns, flail you to death. Did I mention that this game is rated E10+? Even the construction workers in this level are thirsty for Maxwell's blood. But you're not allowed to hurt the workers. That's real fair. Strangely enough, in the prison break level, the only solution I could find was allowing killer animals to do my dirty work for me. Unleashing leopards to maul both prisoners and police officers is apparently okay, but the line is drawn with construction workers. I'm aware that I've been goofing around a lot in this video, so I'll just end on my main point. After playing for a couple of hours, the gameplay gets repetitive. I like games that make me use my noggin, but once I reached a certain point, I found myself just wanting to power through it, using a walkthrough more and more, as I became more tired of both the monotony and the unpolished controls. So I eventually just put it down. I'm sure I'll pick it back up at some point to try the sequel, Super Scribblenauts, and see if it's any better. All that said, I do believe plenty of people would love this game, despite my gripes. I love the concept, and enjoyed a lot of what I played, but I think it's undeniable that a lot more could have been built on such a great foundation. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving me a thumbs up, sharing, subscribing, and ringing the bell so you don't miss any future videos. This has been a Leaky Faucet review. Thanks a bunch for watching. I'll see you next time.